Picture this. Somewhere in Kyoto, on an ordinary Tuesday morning, a man named Kenji wakes at 5:43. Not because his alarm went off, because his body expected it. He is 61 years old, mid-level job, modest apartment. He has never read a productivity book. He does not own a habit tracking app. And yet, if you watched him for one day, you would notice something impossible to ignore. He is unhurried, not slow, unhurried. He moves through his morning as if every action has already been decided. No friction between what he intends to do and what he actually does. He is not performing discipline. He simply does not need to. Look at the people around you who have this. They are never frantic, never fighting themselves. They do not talk about mindset. They just move. With a quiet authority, the rest of us spend our whole lives trying to buy. And you, watching Kenji, feel something slightly uncomfortable. Because your own days, full of plans, apps, alarms, and promises you made to yourself last Monday, somehow produce the opposite feeling by 9 a.m. There is a secret inside Kenji's Tuesday, encoded into Japanese daily life for centuries. Nothing to do with willpower, nothing to do with motivation. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what it is and have the tools to begin building it tonight with the ordinary life you are already living. Before we begin, we need to break an equation. One most of us were handed so early we never thought to question it. The equation: discipline equals effort. The harder you push, the more controlled your life becomes. Willpower is a muscle. Grind harder. Do more. In 2019, researchers at Harvard's Department of Psychology published findings in psychological science that quietly dismantled that idea. Sustainable behavioral change, they found, is not built through intensity. It is built through behavioral automaticity. The point at which good actions require almost no willpower, because repetition has absorbed them into identity itself. The most disciplined people are not working hardest to be disciplined. They have made discipline the path of least resistance, not the destination, the architecture. Kenji did not build his Tuesday through effort. He built it through 7 habits so ordinary most Japanese people couldn't describe them if you asked. These are those habits. Habit 1. He stops eating before he is full. Before every meal, Kenji silently recites an old Confucian phrase, Hara, Hachi, Bu, 3 Japanese characters. 1 instruction: eat until you are 8 parts out of 10 full. From the outside, portion control, a dietary habit, nothing remarkable. But Roy Baumeister, professor of psychology at Florida State University, spent years studying what he called ego depletion, the measurable erosion of self-control through repeated decisions. His finding was this: overriding an immediate desire before the signal to stop arrives is not a personality trait. It is a practiced neural pathway. The fullness signal takes 20 minutes to travel from stomach to brain. Hara Hachibu trains you to stop before it arrives, not on sensation, on anticipation. 3 times a day, every day, for a lifetime. That is not a diet. That is daily training of the same brain system that governs focus, restraint, and every long-term decision you will ever make. A 2025 study in Science Daily confirmed what Okinawa, where this practice runs deepest, has shown for centuries. The region has one of the highest concentrations of centenarians on Earth. What is being trained is not the body's metabolism. It is the brain's relationship with stopping. When did you last stop eating before your plate was empty? That pause is what gets practiced 3 times a day in Kenji's kitchen, and it carries far beyond the table. The second habit happens before he ever sits down to eat. Habit 2, he removes his shoes at the door. Every time, without exception. The West calls this cleanliness. That is not what it is. In 2011, Gabriel Radvansky, professor of psychology at the University of Notre Dame, published what he called the doorway effect. Crossing a physical threshold, passing through a doorway, causes the brain to close the mental context of the space just left and open a new one. The brain treats physical transitions as event boundaries, and event boundaries reset mental state. The moment Kenji's shoes come off, his nervous system receives a signal built by thousands of repetitions. That world is finished. This one begins now. The stress of the commute, the unresolved conversation, the news from the journey home, filed, bounded, left at the entrance. In homes where this boundary doesn't exist, people carry the outside world physiologically indoors. Stress hormones from the train still circulating at the dinner table, the mental context of the office still running at midnight. Do you have a transition when you come home, even a small one, or do you carry it straight in? What happens next is so brief, most people never register it's doing anything at all. Habit 3. Before every meal, he says one word, Itadakimasu. I humbly receive, said in nearly every Japanese household before eating. From the outside, table manners, a cultural formality. But in 2024, researchers at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology published high-density EEG findings showing this. Brief, deliberate pauses before transitioning between activities, even 2 to 3 seconds, dramatically reduce cognitive carryover. The mental residue of the last task, the emotional tone of the last conversation, the unfinished loop from an hour ago. Itadakimasu is a forced full stop between whatever came before and whatever is happening now. 3 seconds, 3 times a day, every day, for a lifetime. By age 30, a Japanese person has performed over 32,000 deliberate attentional resets, not through meditation, not through breathwork, through one word before eating, practiced until the pause arrives on its own. Most people eat still inside the last thing they were doing, scrolling, working, replaying a conversation. The food enters the body. The mind never arrives at the table. The next habit happens outside, and it looks like doing nothing. Habit 4. He walks without a destination, not for exercise, not with a podcast, not toward anything. Japan has a concept, Sanpo, a walk taken for no purpose other than walking, unproductive, leisurely, a waste of time by modern standards. But Marcus Rachel, neurologist at Washington University in St. Louis, spent years mapping what the brain does during low-demand, unstructured movement. What he found was not emptiness. He found a coordinated network he called the default mode network, and what it does in those idle moments is extraordinary, consolidates learning, processes unresolved emotion, reorganizes competing thoughts, rebuilds the internal narrative that makes you feel like yourself. This is not rest. It is the brain's most important maintenance cycle, and it only activates when the mind has nothing demanded of it. Most people have deleted this state entirely. Every idle moment filled, podcast, notification, scroll. The brain never gets to do what it was designed to do with the day. The discomfort of walking with nothing consuming your attention is not boredom. It is the beginning of the brain's most important work. Pause here for a moment. If you are feeling something, not excitement, but a quiet frustration at how simple these are, that feeling matters. These habits cost nothing. No subscription, no 4:30 a.m. alarm. no transformation required. And that is exactly what makes them hard for a modern mind to accept. We were taught that discipline is built through effort, that if something doesn't cost you something, it isn't doing anything. Kenji in Kyoto has never believed this, not because he is Japanese, but because his nervous system, trained through decades of ordinary repetition, was never given a reason to. What these habits are building is not willpower, not motivation, something older and more durable than both. The neural architecture of a mind that does not need to force itself because it has already been quietly, consistently trained. The last 3 habits go even deeper. Habit 5. Before he rests, Kenji tidies, not a deep clean, not a performance. Returns each object to its place, wipes the surface he cooked on, folds what needs folding, then sits. In Japanese, this is Katazuke, returning things to order as a transition into rest. In 1927, psychologist Bluma Zygarnik discovered that incomplete tasks stay active in working memory in a way completed tasks do not. Her finding became the Zygarnik effect. Every unwashed surface, every object out of place, every unfolded thing, each one is neurologically an unfinished sentence. The brain does not stop tracking them when you decide to rest. It keeps them open, keeps the nervous system slightly on guard, prevents the depth of recovery that genuine rest requires. When Kenji tidies before sitting down, he is not being neat. He is closing the cognitive loops of the day before his nervous system tries to rest inside them. Think about the space you will rest in tonight. What is your brain going to be quietly managing while your body tries to sleep? The 6th habit is about how he works, not how hard. Habit 6. He finishes what is in front of him. When Kenji eats, he eats. When he walks, he walks. When he works, he works. Japanese culture holds a concept with no English equivalent. Ichigo, Ichie. 4 characters, 1 time, 1 meeting. This moment, this meal, this task, this conversation will never exist again in this exact form. In 2011, Clifford Nass at Stanford published research that upended what the tech industry had been selling us. Every time the brain switches between tasks, the prefrontal cortex pays a switching cost, a measurable expenditure of executive resources, and these costs stack. By the end of a day of fragmented attention, emails during calls, 3 tabs open, tasks left half finished, the prefrontal cortex is measurably depleted. Not tired, depleted. The exact region responsible for impulse regulation, long-term judgment, and self-control has less of itself left because it spent the day paying costs it was never designed to absorb. Kenji ends each day with more of himself intact than someone who spent the same hours divided across 20 unfinished things. Not because he works harder, because he does not pay the switching cost. The final habit is the one that makes all 6 possible. Habit 7. He sleeps and wakes at the same time, every day. Not approximately, the same time. The National Sleep Foundation's cross-cultural research found Japanese adults among the highest globally for sleep timing regularity, not duration, regularity. That consistency, it turns out, is the variable that changes everything. The brain runs on a circadian rhythm, an internal clock governing cortisol, melatonin, and dozens of regulatory hormones. Consistent timing calibrates it precisely. Cortisol rises on schedule. Clean alertness follows. Melatonin falls on schedule. Deep sleep follows without resistance. Irregular timing, even 45 minutes of variation, triggers what Harvard's Division of Sleep Medicine calls circadian desynchronization. The clock loses precision. Hormone release becomes unpredictable. You enter each day slightly out of phase with your own biology. And a desynchronized clock does not just affect sleep. It directly impairs prefrontal cortex function, reducing impulse control, focus, and self-regulation for the entire following day. Kenji is not disciplined because he is Japanese. He is disciplined in part because his biology is daily, precisely calibrated to perform. His consistency is not the result of discipline. It is the source of it. So, what are these 7 habits, really? Hara Hachi Bu, training impulse control 3 times a day, shoes at the door, a neurological boundary between worlds. Itadakimasu, 32,000 attentional resets before 30. Sanpo, the brain's maintenance cycle, uninterrupted. Katazuke, closing loops so the nervous system can rest. Ichigo Ichie, preserving the executive function discipline requires. Consistent sleep, calibrating the clock that powers every decision, none of them impressive, none requiring willpower, none requiring what we were told they require, ordinary, always ordinary. That is the entire point. Tonight, not next month tonight, try one of these. Not the hardest one, the one that already feels familiar, the one some part of you already knows you need. Leave one bite on the plate. Remove your shoes with intention, not habit. Say one word before your next meal that means, I am here now. These habits do not build discipline by making your life harder. They build it by training the system already running you quietly through ordinary actions every day until it needs less force to move in the direction you have chosen. 20 years from now, someone in your life will look at you and notice something they cannot name, that you are never frantic, that you have already decided, that you move without the friction the rest of us feel. They will wonder what you know. And the answer, the thing Kenji understood at 5:43 on a Tuesday in Kyoto, holding a cup of tea with both hands in a small quiet apartment, is that you will not have to tell them. They will see it in your Tuesday. Share this with one person in your life who works harder than anyone you know and still cannot find rest. Because what they are looking for has never been a matter of effort. See you in the next one.